1, 2.
Yeah, I'm hoping.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. He's been stopped. Yeah, I'm okay.
How are you? Good afternoon.
Okay. I'm just
Right.
going to do a short introduction.
Yeah, fine. Okay, sure.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. It is with great pleasure that we welcome our distinguished visitor today, the Prime Minister, Boris. It's very significant because this is our 235th year of being in business, and that makes us the oldest manufacturing company in the world still operating. Very proud of that fact. Over those years, we've faced many challenges and many changes. The Boer War, 2 world wars, societal changes, the internet, you name it. We've had to face up to it, but we're still here, strong and going forward. Interestingly, in that time, we've dealt with 62 prime ministers. I'm not going to say who the 63rd is going to be, but but seriously, that meant other challenges because of policy changes that affect business, and we've had to adapt and change and meet those as well. But we're here, we've survived, and we're going to survive into the future. So it is with great pleasure that we welcome you, and I'll hand over to your good self.
Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. Wonderful to be here at John Smedley at this famous company, many of whose products, or at least some of whose products, I've had over the years, and very long-lasting and wonderful they are. And look, I don't want to interrupt you for long, because this is the run-up to Christmas, and I imagine you're in a production frenzy now to be making the beautiful jumpers and sweaters and knitwear and tasteful whatever underwear, I suppose, and all all the things that are going to be under the trees of the nation this Christmas, and of course being exported around the world, because you do a huge amount of export overseas. And of course, I didn't actually even want to have this election at all in the run-up to Christmas. I didn't want it, but we just had to do it because we've got a broken parliament, my friends. We've got a parliament that won't do its job. It's like a broken down bendy bus, jackknifed on the yellow box junction, stopping the entire nation from making progress. And what won't it do, this parliament of ours? What won't it do? It won't get Brexit done. For 3.5 years, it's been refusing to do it. And I thought, why do we need to get Brexit done? I'll tell you why. Number one, we're Democrats, aren't we? We believe in democracy. And whether you voted leave or remain, I think most people in this country want to honour the will of the people and get Brexit done. Don't you? Just for democratic reasons. Yeah. But of course, there's also lots of other reasons. I'm afraid that our economy is being held back at the moment by the drag anchor of our broken parliament, and people can't make decisions and businesses can't invest. And there's about £150 billion worth of foreign direct investment that will come into this country as soon as we get Brexit done and get our deal over the line. And we can get Brexit done because we have a deal ready to go. In fact, as I said before, it is oven ready. Actually, I'm not the greatest cook in the world. I think if it were for a microwave, what you would do is you would prick the lid and then whack it in for about 3 minutes. Anyway, we can get it done. We can get it back in Parliament. We can get that withdrawal bill back in Parliament before you cook your Christmas turkey. We can do it. And all we need is a working majority to deliver it, because every single one of the Conservative candidates standing at this election, including Sarah Dines, who's, I think, here, every single one of our candidates has signed up to this deal. And they haven't been, dragooned, they haven't been lobotomized into doing it. They're doing it with absolutely voluntarily, from all wings of opinion of our party. There's a huge spread of opinion. They all want to back this deal and get Brexit done. And it does everything that I think people want from Brexit. It allows us to take back control of our borders, our laws. We can do things differently, whether it's cutting VAT on tampons or legislating. Well, it's true. You can't do it at the moment under EU law. You can't do it, but we will be able to do it. We'll be able to do things like legislating to take away cruelty to animals at the moment, like banning the export of live animals, which goes on. Still, British people have campaigned against that for decades. We'll finally be able to do it. We'll have things like free ports around the country. We'll be able to do all sorts of things differently and better, and including controlling our immigration system for the first time in decades. And that will be a good thing. I'm in favour of having people of talent come to this country, but I think we should have it democratically controlled and have it done that way. Now, all that we can do if we get Brexit done, but we can simultaneously get on and take our country forward with massive investments that we're making. I've been in power for about 4 months or so, and in that time, we're putting the biggest ever investment into the NHS. We're investing massively in our education system. Every primary school, every secondary school in the country is getting more money. 20,000 more police on our streets, because this is a new government with a new approach. I believe in uniting and levelling up across the country. I think, as a one-nation Conservative, that there is talent and skill and genius everywhere in this country, evenly distributed. But I don't think opportunity is fairly distributed. Do you? And I think what we need to do now is to level up and unite this country with 3 things: with better infrastructure, better education, and technology. And I'm thinking of things like broadband and 4G, 5G telephony. Put those things in and you give people a chance. Better education. Give kids a chance across the country. Give every child in this country the chance to express their talents, to make the most of their lives. That's what I want as a Conservative. I believe in opportunity, and that's what we can do. That's what we can do in the next Parliament in just a few weeks. Just a week, if only we can get Brexit done. And mathematically, I'm afraid there is only one alternative to that approach, and that is Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party, propped up by Nicola Sturgeon, the Scottish Nationalists. And we all know who's going to be wearing the tartan trousers in that relationship. And there are two reasons why I think that would be a disaster. Number one, it would mean taking a sledgehammer to the economy. £1.2 trillion of extra borrowing, which would whack up our interest rates for the entire country, pushing up people's mortgages. Extra taxation, don't worry. Somebody, is that an intervention from the Labour Party? Don't worry, we won't be deterred, because what it would also mean is higher taxation, as John McDonnell has admitted, for everybody in the country. And you look at what they're proposing, it would be an extra £1,000 for people earning on £20,000 a year. It is not the right way forward for the UK. It would take a sledgehammer to our ability to fund public services in the way that we want to do. And even worse, we would have the whole of the next year or 2 years, while we want to get on with all this uniting and levelling up, the next year or 2 years wasted in 2 referendums. One on Scotland, which we had before in 2014, remember? And we were told it was a once-in-a-generation event. And then another one on the EU. And, I do think it's a complete waste of time. And nobody knows what Jeremy Corbyn's deal would be. Nobody can say what he intends. He wants to spend another 3 months negotiating a new deal. Then he wants another referendum. And he can't identify a single member of the shadow cabinet who would support his new deal. In fact, he doesn't even seem to support it himself. So I do think it's a complete waste of time. And it would just mean more wrangling and more delay, more deadlock and division. And that is the difference between our one nation approach and the approach of Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party in conjunction with Nicola Sturgeon. So the choice is very, very, very clear. You can go with us, and we're a party that backs the police. And by the way, we want to see proper sentences for serious and violent criminals. We want to see terrorists serve their full term. Or you can go for the Labour Party, who actually say things like stop and search are not appropriate and wrong. We back our armed forces. We support our armed services. Jeremy Corbyn has said he actually wants to disband them. We support MI5, the security agencies that keep us safe. Diane Abbott has said she'd get rid of them. We back private business and enterprise, like this amazing company here. We want to support enterprise and industry and business across this country. We're going to be cutting business rates. We're going to be cutting national insurance contributions for 31 million people in this country. We want to support people who work hard. We want to help them with the cost of living, and we want to help business in this country. Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party would put up corporation tax, a tax on jobs, to the highest in Europe. They would take a sledgehammer to the UK economy. Look, folks, I think this is an absolutely amazing country. It's an incredible privilege for me to be Prime Minister of this country. It's a quite extraordinary place to live, a place to be. And I think we have fantastic future ahead of us. Look at where we already lead. We have the greatest academic sector in the world, greatest universities. 1 in 7 of the world's kings, queens, presidents, prime ministers was educated in this country. Can you believe that? 1 in 7. Actually, including the Japanese emperor. We have a monopoly of the world's emperors. And absolutely true. We have more #1 pop music hits than any other country in the world. We do. That's why it's called, we're the only country to export music to North America. Do you know that? Only country to the United States. That's why it's called One Direction, by the way. We lead, it's not just John Smedley and manufacturing. We've got an incredible manufacturing base. People mock, we are one of the great manufacturing powers in the world. Perhaps the 6th exporter of manufacturing goods, such as are made here. But we also lead in bioscience, in finance, in the arts, in all sorts of fields. And yesterday I was actually in Milton Keynes at the Red Bull Formula One racing team. And they showed me an incredible thing. They showed me how by using high technology, they've been able to reduce the size of the engine of these Formula One machines just in 5 years, from 2.6 litres. You do follow motorsport at all? Do you know what I'm talking about? Well, I barely understand it, but they've been able to reduce the amount of petrol that these things use vastly, from 2.6 litres to 1.6 just in 5 years, and yet produce more power. And that, to me, is a metaphor for this incredible country. We can go faster and faster and do better and better and be cleaner and greener at the same time. And I hope you don't mind me saying that I think the only thing that's standing in our way, and my ambition is very simple. I want it to be the greatest place on earth to live, to be, to bring up your kids, to see you bring up your grandkids, the cleanest, greenest country on earth. The only thing that's standing in our way, the only thing is that if we were a super green supercar, the flat tire we have, you know what it is? This punctured Parliament. And so all I'm asking is for your help to change that punctured Parliament on Thursday of next week and get us a working majority. That's all we need. So we have 7 days to do it. 7 days to get Brexit done. 7 days to end the deadlock. 7 days to get out of this 3.5-year pit stop that we've been in. And the pits is the word, believe me. And to get this country motoring again. And 7 days to make sure that we can invest in our NHS, in our schools, and in our police. 7 days to unleash this country's potential and get it surging forward again. Thank you all very much for listening. Thank you for having me along to John Smedley this afternoon. It's a fantastic pleasure and privilege to be here. And I'm now going to take as many questions as I can before I have to throw it open to the media. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Okay, well, I know you're not shy, so can somebody first start off? Whoop, instantly. Julie, would you like to ask?
Julie's got a long question. I've been trying to read it. Oh. Upside down.
I'll make it short, honestly. Right, actually, we're asking for your help.
Yes.
A few months ago, I did actually send you an email.
Oh, my God.
Yes, you're in trouble now, I'm sorry.
Oh, Julie, what did I do with it?
And we've also spoke to Sarah Dines, who I didn't actually realise was here today.
She's here?
She's here somewhere.
Yes.
Say hello. You came to Matlock a few weeks ago, where all the floods were.
Yes.
And mopping out Specsavers.
Yes.
Yes, right. Well, what it is, I live at the top of Matlock, and
yes.
at the top of there, they're wanting to build 400 homes. It's on green fields. The fields are actually a floodplain. There was a source of John Smedley's hydros, so there's a lot of underground water, which makes it a floodplain.
Right.
Part of Matlock was flooded even before the river broke its banks, which came down from the top where we live. We have been, obviously, we're in talking to the Derbyshire Dales District Council about it. We go to no end of council meetings. They said that the government wanted so many houses that have got to be delivered in their district over so many years. The Derbyshire Dales have already got 5 years worth of housing. So why are they wanting to put it on a greenfield site, which is pasture land, which is a floodplain, major traffic concerns, access, wildlife, but they don't listen. We've had all sorts. We've had the traffic survey out. They're not interested. Why?
Okay, Julie. Well, thanks very much, Julie. Well, listen, I want to do everything I can to help you there. And obviously, I've got a huge amount of sympathy with people in Matlock, elsewhere in Derbyshire, Yorkshire, Nottinghamshire, people who suffered during the floods, and it's incredibly distressing when that happens. We've got to stop building on floodplains. We've got to stop building on areas which are vulnerable to flooding. That's why this government is putting in another £4 billion into flood defences, and we will also be making sure that we invest in brownfield sites that enable us to build the housing that our people need, particularly young people, get on the housing ladder without wrecking greenfield sites. Well, I can imagine. And what I'm also going to do is ask Sarah Dines, who is standing right there.
I didn't realise you were here.
I'm going to ask Sarah Dines to take it up and make sure that she represents you properly to the local planning authorities, and your point of view is properly put across. But I totally understand. The other thing we've got to do, we've got to put in long-term flood defences, but we've also got to be planting millions and millions more trees. And it sounds crazy, but it's true. You need to plant 30 million more trees on higher ground to deal with the water that is building up.
Do they take about 80 litres of water, one per tree?
You're right, Julie. You're right. Trees are part of the answer. They're only a part of the answer, but they're part of the solution.
Yes. Wait.
Yes.
Where's my mic runner?
When Brexit's over, are you going to pull the country back together?
Yes, we are. Thank you. And I think genuinely, I think there's only one way to get it. I think it's got worse in the last 3.5 years, because I think the wrangling and the delay and the anger in Parliament has just made it all worse. And that's why I'm so pleased that, at least on our side of the argument, even though people do disagree in the Tory party, or they have done, they've all coming together now to get this thing over the line. And they want to move forward. And that is a really great opportunity for our country. We get it done, then we've got a hugely exciting future ahead of us, and we should seize it. So, and get it done, I think people will start to come together in a big way. We cracked it. Come on.
Back there, right.
Sir, yes.
Can you categorically guarantee that the NHS is not vulnerable to outside bodies or other countries?
I can, and I can absolutely say that. And thank you. This question does come up with a metronomic, what's the word I want? Frequency. It's a total. With great respect to everybody, it is a UFO idea. We believe passionately. I believe passionately in the NHS. It is a fantastic thing. It is one of the best things about our country. It's a very simple idea. When anybody is sick, the whole country comes together to help them. It's a fantastic thing. It is loved and admired in our country and around the world. We are putting £34 billion into it, the biggest ever investment. We're upgrading 20 hospitals. We're building 40 new hospitals. People, in 10 years' time, as a result of the decisions that this government has taken, there will be 40 new hospitals. But we're also investing in 50,000 more nurses, 6,000 more GPs. There will be 50 million more GP surgery appointments over the next Parliament as a result of the decisions we're taking. We want to invest massively in the NHS. It's a fantastic, fantastic thing. And if you have a healthy, happy population, by the way, you will also have a more productive population, a population that feels more confident about itself. You will have a happier country and a richer country. We're investing in our future by investing in the NHS. And it's absolutely the right thing to do. But I want to be clear that we can only make these investments if we have a robust economy. And that's what we've also got to ensure we deliver. And in the next few years, we will make sure that we keep the economy moving and we do not clobber people with excessive taxation. We do not, which is, I'm afraid, what Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party are proposing to do. And we do not attack the businesses that allow our economy to grow and thrive. Because you need two sides. To have a success that we believe, as One Nation Conservatives, I believe there are two sides to our economy. There's brilliant infrastructure, a fantastic NHS, superb education, but then you've also got to have wonderful businesses that are prospering and flourishing, bringing in the revenues that we need to pay for those investments. And you've got to have both. You've got to believe in both. Some conservatives believe just in supporting wealth creation. Some people just believe in putting money into the public sector. Neither option works. You've got to do both. That is One Nation conservatism. And that's what we want to bring forward over the next 5 years. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Earlier today you knitted that. We'd like you to show people what it was.
Come on.
This is our new top skill member.
Thank you very much. That is beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're now going to throw it open to the media.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, I'm very proud of that. Thank you very much indeed. That is beautiful. That will keep me warm.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I'm stepping down now because you're much better
Have
at
I
this
answered
than me.
enough questions from
the media?
I've covered the ground, haven't I? I think we, hang on. I've got Laura. Hang on. I've got to hang on. Laura Koonsberg from the BBC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. You've said today that as soon as you win, if you're lucky enough to win, you would have a budget in February that would cut taxes for people. Overall, your manifesto would raise tax. You said also that your deal could be done within a year, whereas when you say every time get Brexit done, you could do it by the end of January. Actually, it would just open up to months, if not years, more negotiations. What can we actually believe from you that you can be really straightforward about?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about on the first point. Laura, we're cutting taxes on business rates, we're cutting national insurance contributions, for everybody in the country. And as for the everybody paying nix, as for your point about getting Brexit done, the advantage of the deal we have ready to go is that it takes us out of the EU on January the 31st. It means we are no longer part of the legal empire of the EU. We have full sovereignty to legislate for ourselves, to do all the things that I was describing. And the most important thing is it ends the parliamentary wrangling and bitterness and feuding that, in my view, has destabilised this country for the last 3.5 years. It lets this country move on. And I'm afraid what Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party would do is keep us locked in Groundhog Day, for the whole of next year and beyond, with more disputes in Parliament about Brexit.
Mr. Johnson, overall, your manifesto would raise tax. I mean, that's very clear from the scorecard that you've published. Overall, your manifesto would raise taxes.
No, we're cutting taxes on national insurance contributions and on business rates. And I'm certainly not aware of the data you described. We're cutting taxes, and in our first budget, we propose to do more to cut taxes. You'll have to guess. You hang on. Wait. I'm going to I got a list. Beth Rigby.
Hello.
There you are.
Here
Beth,
I am.
sorry.
Hello, my go. Mr. Johnson, this morning you absolutely promised your words to leave the EU by January the 31st.
If we get a working majority government.
If you get a majority. But we all know, everyone here knows, that a robust economy doesn't just depend on January the 31st. It depends on a trade deal with the EU by the end of December. So my question to you is, do you here absolutely promise that you will get your trade deal done by the end of December?
Well, Beth, we already have a deal, and we can come out on January the 31st in a state of perfect equilibrium and grace with the rest of the EU, because we have a zero tariff, zero quota position now, and I've absolutely no doubt at all that we'll be able to make sure that the EU protects its own interests and has a deal with us that ensures that continues for the future. Because after all, in spite of the heroic exports of John Smedley and other companies, the EU has a £65 billion trade surplus with us in goods alone. It's very much in their interests to do a deal with us, and I've no doubt that they will. And if you say, can I absolutely guarantee that we'll get a deal? I think I can, and I'll tell you why. Look at what we achieved in, which is I think your question. Look at what we achieved in 3 months with the New Deal that I did. Everybody said it wasn't possible. Everybody said it would never happen. People, do you remember? I think you may have even expressed scepticism yourself, Beth. As it? Well, quite right. No, quite right. But we did it, and it's a great deal, and it will take this country forward, and I'm very proud of it.
So just quickly, that's a cast iron guarantee, is it, in front of all these people? Cast iron guarantee.
I see that we already have a fantastic deal, and the possibility you allude to simply will not happen. Paul.
Thank you, Paul Brand from ITV News. Prime Minister, you've been talking about your first 100 days in government as if the Conservatives haven't already been in power for 3,495 days. Yeah, right. If you want people to believe
I was mainly running London at the time, Paul.
You were also an MP for 3 of those years, I believe, 4 of those years. My question, though, is if you want voters to believe that you really are turning over a new leaf on austerity, can you be honest and say that you think your predecessors cut too much?
Well, look, I think that what happened in 2010 was that a new government did come in and find that the place was totally bankrupt. And all Labour governments end up by running out of money, and all Labour governments end up with debt higher than when they began. And indeed, all Labour governments end up with unemployment higher than when they began. I think it was right to govern prudently. I still think it's right to govern prudently, but what I want to do as a one-nation Tory is to invest massively in our public services, and we are going to do that. And we're going to do it because we're going to run a strong economy, and we're going to be able to run a strong economy because we're going to get Brexit done and move on.
But if you think you should invest more now, does that mean you think there was too much cut earlier? You must do.
Well, This is an idle speculation, if I may say so. Paul, what I want to do is get on now and invest in our country and in our future. And, if I look at the alternative, every Labour government ends up with an economic crisis. If I look at what Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party, these guys would start with an economic crisis and not end up with one. Matt, from The Sun.
Yes, Matt Dathan from The Sun. Thousands of people are struggling to get to work every day because of the current strikes on South Western Rail. As Mayor of London, you wanted the then Tory government to ban strikes on the tube. Do you still want to see a Tory government ban strikes on public transport? And last week you didn't answer my question. How are you personally going to spend your £85 tax cut next year?
Oh, honestly. Okay. On the strikes, and it's a perfectly reasonable question. I do think it's ridiculous. I do think it's absurd that critical transport and mass transit systems should be capable of being put out of action by strikes. And there are other countries in the world that have minimum service requirements for public transport. So that's what I want to see. That's in the manifesto. That's what we'll be doing. We'll do that right at the beginning of the next Parliament if we get a working majority, and that will help commuters across the whole of the country. And on your other point, the answer is I have no idea. All I want to do is get Brexit done so the whole country can move on. Anyway, Claire Ellicott from the Mail.
Hi, I'm Claire Ellicott from the Mail. We've not heard anything from Jacob Rees-Mogg this election. Is he guaranteed to be your Commons leader if you win the election?
Look, do you think it would be? I think it would be totally wrong for me to go around giving answers to the media about questions about who's going to be in the next government when we need to form a new government, and we've only got 7 days of this election campaign left. And I think all these questions come under the general category of measuring up the curtains, don't you think? I think we need to get on, get a working majority, get this thing over the line, and then get Brexit done. And then there'll be plenty of time to answer all those types of questions. Martin Brown of The Express.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Martin Brown from Daily Express. I'm sure it's a situation you're not contemplating, but if there is a referendum next year, second referendum, EU referendum, do you think it's right that EU citizens, 2 million EU citizens in Britain, should get the right to vote, as is the Labour Party's policy?
Well, I think the whole proposal from the Labour Party is bizarre. They want to spend another 3 months negotiating some new deal. They won't explain what it is. We can't find a single member of the shadow cabinet who would support this new deal that Mr. Corbyn wants to do. I don't understand what he actually intends by this negotiation. Then have 6 months or a year for another referendum campaign on this weird deal that he wants to do. And I think people will be outraged by the whole thing. And I think that to think that it is going to be rigged in some way by getting in millions more voters who would be very likely to vote one way rather than another, I think that would cause a great deal of public disquiet, and I don't think it's the right way forward. And well, that's my list. Let's just yes, go on.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Ben Glaze from the Daily Mirror. Will you do an interview with Andrew Neil before Thursday, or are you too for it?
Ben, I'm very happy to do interviews with all manner of people, but my highest privilege of this campaign so far is to be able to answer your question. And I think I've submitted so far I'm the first Prime Minister to have done two one-on-one leadership debates, several hours worth of phone-ins, endless press conferences, and interviews with all sorts of BBC people called Andrew. And I will continue to submit to the interrogation of the media, and if you want to have any further information on that, I direct you to Dr. Lee Kane, who will advise you. Yes.
Hi, it's Joe Mays from Bloomberg. When a British voter turns to you in the middle of 2020 and says, Mr. Johnson, you said that Brexit would be done, so why do I keep hearing about it on the TV, on the radio, reading about it in the newspapers, and this negotiation with the EU and all the companies in the economy lobbying to have their interests heard in that negotiation? and they say, Prime Minister, you said it would be done. What will you say to that voter?
I don't think that such a person will put that question in that way, because I think actually what will happen is it will be done. And if we can get a working majority on January the 31st, we'll be out. And we'll have full legal control of the things that matter to us. And we'll have a great opportunity to take this country forward. And I'm much looking forward to it. I'm going to take my last question from, yes, you. Sorry, Nick.
I just want to follow up on Laura's question, actually, because you keep saying that you're the party of tax cuts, but you've written down in black and white in your manifesto, your policies will lead to net tax increases.
No.
A vote for the Tory party is a vote for higher taxes. Why won't you admit that?
It's because it's absolutely not right. We've got a manifesto that commits us to cutting national insurance contributions for everybody in the country. What is true is that we are not going to begin in the first budget by cutting taxes on absolutely everybody. We're going to begin by cutting taxes for those who need the most help with the cost of living. And that's why we're doing things like that's why we're cutting national insurance first, because everybody benefits from it. And we will go up to cut national insurance by 500, we'll lift the national insurance threshold to £12,500 and help people on low or modest incomes to pay less tax. And I think that is what the people of this country want right now. And I think that's the right way forward. What we will also do, by the way, is increase the living wage by the biggest ever amount, because I also think that it's right for a One Nation Conservative Party to help people with the cost of living. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to invest massively in public services. We're going to invest in education and schools. But we're also going to support the wealth-creating sector of the economy, cutting taxes on businesses, making sure that this country remains a fantastic place to invest. And as I say, there is £150 billion worth of foreign direct investment waiting to come into this country, according to Goldman Sachs, I think it was, if we can get our deal, my deal, through. Now, what do you want for Christmas, folks? Do you want £150 billion worth of investment into this country, or do you want Jeremy Corbyn's plan for 2 referendums, one on the EU and one on Scotland? I think I know what I want. I think I know what's good for the UK economy. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. Thank you.